Hello, it's a lovely good evening and welcome to Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Our top stories in the news tonight. CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI challenges public office seekers to make truth-telling a norm. Freedom fighters appeal for recognition from UPND administration. ENOCH KAVINDELE alleges that former President FREDRICK CHILUBA foresaw the presidency of HAKAINDE HICHILEMA. In international news, building collapse in CAIRO kills family of 6. And in sports news, Copper Queens set to face AWCON tournament hosts Morocco in an international friendly Saturday evening.
On Monday, 20th June 2022, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba as he hosts Honorable Elvis Nkandu, Minister of Youth, Sport and Arts. Don't miss as they discuss UPND 10 months of being in power.
As government through the ministry, we have demanded for a report from the service provider and we need a refund and underline, because as we are not restive and the payment for expenses suffered.
Invite others to participate through phoning, on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp and text messages.
On DSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98 and Topstar channel 106.
Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Hello once again, another news in detail. Police in Lusaka have reported that a 14-month-old baby stolen from her home in Lusaka's Mandevu compound has been found. Camnet Television Friday aired a story in which a 22-year-old Grace Mumba of Lusaka's Mandevu compound reported that her baby was stolen from the house where she left her sleeping Thursday evening when she went to buy a diaper. However, police spokesperson Ray Hamonga says the child was taken by a neighbor identified as Gladys Kafwimbi, who when interviewed explained that the mother was in a habit of leaving the baby alone. Mr. Hamonga says that Ms. Kafwimbi at around 01 hours on the material day, whilst sleeping, heard the baby crying in the neighbor's house, and when she went to check, she found the door closed and not locked. He says Ms. Kafwimbi then knocked and there was no response, so she walked in the house where she found the baby crying and alone. The police spokesperson adds that Ms. Kafwimbi then decided to take the baby in order to teach its mother a lesson. The baby has since been retrieved and given back to its mother. Lusaka's Ngorere Ward 22 Councillor Adrian Banda has warned residents in the habit of illegally disposing waste of prosecution in the fast-track court. Speaking when he cleared 3 memorial heaps of garbage in his ward Saturday, Mr. Banda says he has noted an increase in illegal waste disposal by residents, an act mostly done at night. And some residents spoken to who also participated in the cleaning exercise say there is need for all community members to act as watchdogs of each other to prevent such behavior. More in this report.
It was a difficult duty Saturday morning as the Lusaka City Council, in the company of residents from Lusaka's garden compound in Ngorere Ward 22, labored to clear 3 memorial heaps of garbage in the ward, which have been created by indiscriminate waste disposal. Tipper trucks from the council were put at use, as well as hose and all kinds of equipment to get the job done. The problem of indiscriminate waste disposal in Zambia, and particularly in Lusaka, is not new, and this has also led to some roads being blocked by garbage. The Lusaka City Council, which has embarked on the task of clearing the garbage in this area, has warned of prosecution in the fast-track court for those found wanting. Ngorere Ward 22 Councillor Mr. Adrian Banda was speaking to Camnet News.
And the area councillor, together with the BBC and the Lusaka City Council, even the contractor, M&M, we are here today that we clear this system for garbage. After clearing it, we won't allow or tolerate lawlessness, whereby people should dump waste anyhow. No. And I'm happy and glad to hear to say that the community also have taken part of the same training. We have got the CBs, which are community-based enterprises. Those are agents of the Osaka City Council to pick or to collect garbage in the households. They're into zones, meaning people, they have got days whereby the same CBs, they come and pick the garbage, which they normally pay. It's not that people, they don't want us to pay, that's why they take an advantage.
Some of the residents who participated in the exercise said developing good roads on the road reserves often blocked by garbage may be one of the solutions to the problem.
So kuika kukwira chewozi wamene mzimayi uja na wamene jangi uja taya hapa wasofunika kuwagwira wacha.
Some stakeholders have been calling for garbage collection fees to be revised downwards, as some stand as high as 100 kwacha per month, which means that many, especially those in low-income households, cannot afford. They state that such measures could reduce the problem of indiscriminate waste disposal. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Some youths in Lusaka's Kalingalinga compound have called on government to consider offering support to their small carpentry business in order to improve on quality amid its government's demand that the Constituency Development Fund CDF should benefit the local people. Speaking to Camnet News Saturday, Home Interior Creations Limited Administrator Mutale Munkonge says the business is run by youths in Lusaka who feel they have the potential to positively contribute to the growth of the carpentry sector if given the right support. And support for vulnerable communities and active leadership, SAVUCO Executive Director Eugene Machona says youths should desist from having a dependent mindset, adding that government should offer help in many ways aside from finances. More in this report.
While many youths are calling on government to create jobs for them in order to meet the high cost of living, these youths of Lusaka's Kalingalinga compound have decided to take a different approach by starting a carpentry business of creating various household wooden products. Speaking to Camnet TV, these youths have explained that they opted to form a company as a way of creating employment for themselves and that of youths across the country. Mutale Munkonge, the administrator of Home Interior Creation, says the company can do a lot if given support, as their business is running with limited resources.
What if this doesn't work? Yeah, so always as youths, we should always try to think outside the box. Let's just see to do something else apart from just relying on. Though we have materials, meaning more work, more materials, more customers, more work, meaning more employees. Yes. So for government, you can always ask for financial assistance. Yeah, so that you can always get our own materials from South Africa, China.
We are also in need of empowerment, kind of. Yes, just empowerment. We've been visited the PS office last week. The Minister of Youth was here with the Money Grow initiative.
Meanwhile, an organization called Support for Vulnerable Communities and Active Leadership, SAVUCO Executive Director Eugene Machona, says the country has many youths who have creative and relevant ideas that can benefit the country. However, government need to do more by creating a local and sustainable market for them.
Yeah, so basically what is needed and what government should realize is, in as much they will talk so much about empowering the youths, empowering their citizens with financial support, they will not have all that capacity as a government to provide the financial capacity to each and every creative youths. But all what they have to do is to provide market. Government has got a larger influence on the private sector because they set the policies. So if government put policies that are favorable to young people that are into self-employment, they will not be having panicking in terms of youths flocking their office through Ministry of Youth and Sports, through SMEs, and
Messi Chanika reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
Independent Bwanamkubwa constituency member of Parliament Warren Mwambazi says he has commenced the grading of Kavu Graveyard Road in Zambia compound of Ndola on the Copper Belt, funded through his own initiative. Speaking during the commencement of the project, Bwana Mkubwa Constituency Chairman Musonda Chongo expressed gratitude to the area Member of Parliament for working on the dilapidated road which has been making it difficult for vehicles to move. And some residents in the constituency have expressed happiness on the move taken by Mr. Mwambazi to work on the road. More in the following report.
Through numerous mechanisms, investments in the road sector benefits the whole society by providing access to territorial and allowing poverty alleviation to take place. Consequently, the road network creates and stimulates positive synergy and enhances social cohesion and integration by giving citizens access to the same opportunities. With that in mind, rural roads infrastructure indispensable asset for the rural communities as it is a backbone of their livelihoods. Some residents in Bwana Mkubwa constituency on the Copper Belt have expressed happiness over the grading of the Kavu Graveyard Road in Zambia compound by the area Member of Parliament.
Mwamba bwinza ifine mwayamba evo ikwiri geve mwanji siwa kuswa tokera mwanji jaturenda wino kuna mamotoka urukungwa cyane nafine mwachara cyane ko bwino yabuda kuswa tokera mwanji mwara tuwanisha namba foto le ishanya kufoba yuthi trefa isha kwenzi toshi pisene kuna social social nutuku yachira mamuno mushitura kwa wafa kwebana mayo
And representing the lawmaker Warren Mwambazi, Bwana Mkubwa Constituency Chairperson Musonda Chongo discloses that the move by Honorable Mwambazi will benefit the locals.
We are in Kavu, Zambia compound. We've just started grading the road which starts from the junction of Kavu Hospital, and then it goes up to Palace Pali Gomes. So the job has started. We want to make sure that at least 4 within Bwana Mkubwa, the area Member of Parliament, Warren Mwambazi, wants to make sure that all the roads which leads within Honorable Mwambazi. It's not coming from CDF, it's just trying to help. When the CDF comes, awachikawa masana, panjunga panga mwatampa, pale mfendera mashampoke. Number CDF government.
Residents have since been urged not to block the drainages by throwing garbage. Blessings Chakwila, Camnet News.
Residents of Stephen Mwaza village in Mumbwa district of Central Province have appealed to the government to expedite the process of rural electrification, stating that they are missing out on various economic activities due to lack of electricity in the area. Speaking to Camnet News, the residents explained that bringing electricity to their area would help them venture into various economic activities, such as hammer mill businesses. Meanwhile, the Rural Electrification Authority, REA, has targeted to implement 87 projects across the country, with a cumulative number of 14,444 connections from the 362.2 million kwacha budgeted for in the 2022 national budget. More in this report.
Electricity is one of the most important factors in production, and the lack of electricity in an area often means that economic activities which people can venture into are limited. While Zambia's urban areas have been electrified to over 60% according to data from the Ministry of Energy, rural electrification only stands at 8%. Development in areas without electricity is also limited, as this means that economic activities are mostly limited to agriculture and other similar ventures. Such is the case of residents of Stephen Mwaza village in Mumbwa district of Central Province, who have called for the process of rural electrification to be expedited, stating that this will help them add value to their crops by producing mealie meal using hammer mills.
Mapehingu tufesinga kuno tuli bantu ubasharire. So mukusharira ugwesu bintu bimwi biragaga kuti tubijite orokati yenda kubijitanka mbo wani turarakinga malaiti tunyina tatujigonyiwambe nga twadonsa malaiti ugonkwabere ulima kilometers manjanji uti tunyamukano olokuya kujigayo ja malaiti twajita ku booking ana mbikoti na mahonda ni distance ambwe ni 4 kilometers to 6 kilometers. So tulalomba boma iyagaza new government itugwashe andiswe tuyeye koguno ukuthi andiswe tusumpuge malaiti aragonya kutuletera bintu binjanji either ingatwapanga goroga community school alogali malaiti abigayo ingagabiri kwakwi abimwi ibisebenza malaiti.
Another resident identified as Miss Beatrice Mutinta has also spoken out.
Anenti na challenge mukayangana the way Lord kutoka ku Jinali borofika kuno ku village kwa Steven Mwaze village tilibe malaiti kulibe malaiti mukayangana manyumba malaiti tienda kudali olobana batu ku maskulu kwa mine bali kuyenda ni kudali 7 kilometers tutende tupeze kuli malaiti kwinangu ni 12 kilometers tutende tupeze kuli malaiti. So tupemba babo matianga nenu kona ise malaiti kuno mkatikilako malaiti bazatileterako tugayo tatengako tugayo tatengako maloni tatengako soche ndalama zabine mnapasira at least tapezako kutinga kuli malaiti vinga savings batinga kulibe malaiti vinga savings.
Meanwhile, government through the Rural Electrification Authority REA has targeted to implement 14,444 new connections from the 362.2 million kwacha in the 2022 national budget.
2022 projects are expected to bring a total of 14,444 number of connections. This will represent a significant increase in the rates of rural electrification in Zambia.
Zambia has a goal of becoming a prosperous middle-income country by 2030 and easy access to electricity across the country. We hope Zambia to achieve this goal. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Mumbwa District in Central Province.
Opposition Patriotic Front member of the Central Committee, CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI, has challenged those seeking public office in the country to make truth-telling a norm. In an exclusive interview with Camnet News, Dr. KAMBWILI charges that the current United Party for National Development administration had in the last 20 years boasted of being economic managers and promised to transform the country, which he says they have failed to live up to. Dr. KAMBWILI adds that President HICHILEMA has on several occasions boasted of being an economist and how he was going to fix the economy, but says there is nothing that has been fixed in the last 9 months of the UPND in office. More in this report.
You have an opportunity to put a leadership that will serve you better. Clear vision, management capability, competence, saving money from consumption to directing to investment so we can create jobs and business opportunities. That's all we are offering. That's why we are seeking public office.
These, just like many other pronouncements, were some of the things that the United Party for National Development administration promised the people of Zambia while still in opposition before they took over office from the Patriotic Front Party. Republican President HAKAINDE HICHILEMA won the election on a promise to tackle corruption and to end the financial and economic crisis that has seen Zambia's debt ballooning. Though several pronouncements like free education, employment of teachers, the rule of law, among other things, seem to have been tackled, addressing the debt crisis continue to be a topic of concern. Opposition Patriotic Front presidential aspirant Dr. CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI wonders why the UPND administration has not yet managed to fix the economy when they boasted of being economic managers the time they were in opposition.
We are supposed to do homegrown initiatives to improve our economy. But I think Zambia is not an island. We are interdependent. If the world economy crumbles, everybody is affected. But my brother says he's an economist and is going to fix it. So it's 9 months on the line. We are waiting for the fixing of the economy. Already the IMF and the World Bank have predicted that the world economy would go into recession. There is a likelihood that the world economy will go into recession.
He says speaking and telling the truth should be the norm of those seeking to govern the country.
Power is only sour when it is with your friends. It becomes sweet when you are in power and you want now to refuse what you were accepting, and you want to accept what you were refusing. It's a learning curve, and I hope Zambians have learned something from the change of government from UPND to PF. The UPND for the last 20 years were boasting that they were economical managers, that they were going to change the fortunes of this country. 9 hours we are sworn in, 14 hours the dollar, we haven't seen that. So my advice, let's be honest with each other and be consultative.
Dr. Kambwili further adds that there is nothing to write home about looking at the current country's economic performance.
So we must learn something from what has happened, that to be truthful and telling the truth should be the norm of people wanting to go into government. But look at the mess that we are in. Look at the mess that we are in. The economy is still doing very badly.
Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
Opposition Patriotic Front Kanchivia Member of Parliament Sunday Chanda has charged that the future of Zambia's industrialization does not lie in urban areas, but the rural areas which have the prospect of job creation and economic growth. Mr. Chanda has since called on government to begin looking at rural areas differently and come up with a model of unlocking rural areas for economic development. Meanwhile, Mr. Chanda says Kanchivia district of Muchinga province has a comparative advantage of agriculture, but this can only make economic sense if the agriculture sector in the district is powered by energy, with energy connectivity.
The rural areas. The future of industrialization lies around the rural areas. And if there's any emphasis that we have to look at as we push our development agenda, it's to emphasize that we place more emphasis on unlocking rural areas of Zambia for industrialization. Issues around energy become very important. Now, getting Kanchivia onto the national grid becomes a very expensive undertaking, but we still continue to press on government. I was engaging the Minister of Energy 2 days ago. We have areas, I'll give an example of an area like Kavinga Chiefdom. It's a vast area with vast water bodies, with vast plains. It's an area that is ripe for investment. And all that this area is asking for is a seed. Now, the kind of seed that you're looking at is if you can get the connectivity, you can get electricity power into Kavinga Chiefdom, as an example, you're going to unlock the aquaculture industry, and you're going.
Former President Edgar Lungu says he is deeply saddened by the demise of veteran politician and freedom fighter Sikota Wina, who died on the 15th of June 2022. In a statement made available in the media by Administrative Assistant in the office of the 6th Republican President of Zambia, Daniel Siwo, Mr. Lungu has praised Mr. Wina for his sacrifice and enormous contributions to the country's independence struggle and democratic dispensation. The former head of state says Mr. Wina dedicated his life to public service and served this country with diligence and the highest mark of patriotism and honesty. He has further called upon Zambians to mourn the fallen hero in a dignified manner and reflect upon the values of selflessness, patriotism and nationalism that Mr. Wina espoused throughout his long and illustrious political career. Republican President HAKAINDE HICHILEMA has challenged young people in the country to learn good morals and values from the freedom fighters who fought for the country. The president, who spoke when he visited the funeral house of the late Sikota Wina Saturday afternoon, says freedom fighters should be remembered for the contribution they made in paving a way for the current leaders to rule the country. Meanwhile, some freedom fighters who were present at the funeral house have appealed to the current administration to recognize and reward them for the efforts made in the liberation of Zambia. More in the following report.
The Republican President HAKAINDE HICHILEMA Saturday, 18th June 2022 visited the funeral house to the late Zukota winner, who died after a short illness on 15th June 2022. Whilst at the funeral house, the president advised young people in the country to learn good morals and value exhibited by the freedom fighters who fought for the country's independence. The president says freedom fighters should be remembered for the contribution they made during the struggle for freedom.
Those parents of the young people are sons and daughters of these who have gone. And we're just talking about the values that these stood for. And that these are the values that will help us drive this country to where it should be. Next generation. Not to be laughed at. On this continent, I'm extremely unhappy myself that we, the leaders, have allowed the continent to be a laughingstock because of poverty, because of denial. In a continent, on a continent that's so rich. But this is us to do what we can. Now, it means someday we will pass on to the young people, isn't it? How are they going to carry on this journey?
And some freedom fighters who also visited the funeral house feel they have been neglected by the government for a long time, hence calling on the new administration to recognize and reward their efforts.
We are still struggling so that we may be given our rewards which we wait. This is which is not good. That's why we are complaining. That's why these associations were formed so that we talk to the government, so that the government should know that the freedom fighters are still there. But why forgetting them? You know what is happening here in Zambia now? We put on suits, what and what, but we forget the machine which is all the good. What I mean by that, people here, they are in parliament, they have got reward, everything like that, but they forgot those people, they forget those people who fought for this real government, this government.
Was trying to see that the freedom fighters countrywide also they have benefited, because since independence for the past 58 years, freedom fighters have not been taken into account, or rather to be considered. Now having the 7th president, you know, even in the Bible, the 7th is a complete number. So we are looking forward, and in fact it is something that has been left in the cabinet office through our father, who has started pushing to say, no, these people should be considered.
Several government officials also visited the funeral house. Blessings Chakwila, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Former Vice President ENOCH KAVINDELE says the late former President FREDRICK CHILUBA prophesied that President HAKAINDE HICHILEMA would one day be a president of Zambia. Speaking at the memorial service of the late former head of state in Lusaka Saturday, Mr. KAVINDELE says President CHILUBA did a lot for the country of Zambia, which most people failed to do. And President HAKAINDE HICHILEMA says the democracy that the country enjoys today was engineered by Dr. CHILUBA, who fought to end the one-party state without fear.
And at one point, there was a function in the Pamozo Hotel. I think it involved investors. It was an investment conference. And you were there as, I think, master of ceremonies. I may not exactly remember what you did, but then you spoke there and addressed everyone. And you did so well that at the end of that meeting, President CHILUBA said to me, he said, watch that young man. One day he'll be president. I've wanted to tell you this, I just haven't had the opportunity. But this is exactly what President CHILUBA said to me and Vincent Malam.
I didn't know the description of this fellow talking here. For years, I used to ask my wife, is there another HH these people are writing about? Do I do certain things in the night maybe when I'm half asleep, to deserve this description, you know, arsonist, satanist, and but looking at FTJ, I drew a lesson from him, never to bother about those issues. Never, just stay the course. Do what is right to be done for the people. Lesson from FTJ.
I wish to say to you, sir, 7 is a number of fulfillment. In biblical numerology, it's a perfect number. So your assignment is huge. And for sure, as you said, do not mind the narratives that may carry out there. Public life is like that.
You're watching Camnet TV Main News and not just another channel. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
I've always been passionate about moving forward as fast as I could. Even as a child, all I ever wanted was to take first place at everything I put work towards. Whether I'm on the track or in the lecture room, my goal is to come out on top.
Growing up, we were always called Mafasho. You could say this paved the way for who we would become. We owe our success to our understanding of the power of storytelling, understanding what people connect to in order to give them what they desire.
We have always been passionate about people and honoring their stories. Our learning experience gave us the knowledge to channel our creativity into a business.
In order to start any successful journey, we must have a place to start. Even if that means we keep our mental image in focus as we become the inevitable solution to society's inevitable problems.
Which is why we all start our journey here.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
On Monday, 20th June 2022, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba as he hosts Honorable Elvis Nkandu, Minister of Youth, Sport and Arts. Don't miss as they discuss UPND 10 months of being in power.
As government through the ministry, we have demanded for a report from the service provider and we need a refund and underline, because as we are not wasted and payment for expenses suffered.
Invite others to participate through phoning on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp and text messages.
On DSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98 and Topstar channel 106.
Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. We'll continue with the news. Mpika Central Member of Parliament Francis Kapyanga has alleged that the Tanzania-Zambia Railway Authority, TAZARA, cannot continue depending on grants for its operations and payments of salaries, hence calling on the two governments to expedite the process of recapitalization of TAZARA. Mr. Kapyanga has also called on the government to look into the plight of the 3,000 TAZARA workers in Muchinga province who have now gone for 4 months without pay, which is causing misery to the families of the employees. And the government Friday, through the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Transport and Communications, announced the release of an additional 19.8 million kwacha to enable TAZARA dismantle part of the salary areas for its employees. However, Mr. Kapyanga says the amounts released will only cater for their 2 months' salary areas, hence calling on government to find a lasting solution. More in this report.
A lasting solution in addressing the challenges of operations of Tanzania-Zambia Railway Authority, TAZARA, is what many look forward to. Mpika Central Member of Parliament Francis Kampyanga says TAZARA cannot go on depending on grants for its operations and payment of its employees, further calling for the two governments to expedite the process of recapitalization of TAZARA. He calls on government to look into the plight of 3,000 Tanzania-Zambia Railway Authority workers in Muchinga province who have now gone for 4 months without pay, causing misery to the families of employees. Yesterday, the 17th of June 2022, government through the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Transport announced the release of an additional 19.8 million kwacha to enable TAZARA dismantle part of the salary arrears for its employees. However, the lawmaker says government should honor its promise that it made during campaign time that it was going to be paying workers on time.
Of TAZARA workers, they cannot become destitute in their own country, yet they are called workers. The same way our civil servants get their salaries on time should be the same way TAZARA workers should get their salaries on time. We wonder how they even manage to take their children to school, how they even manage to put food on their table. I really sympathize with them as a member of parliament. And I do not want to go the way of moving motions in the House to urge government to pay salaries on time, because this was an undertaking that government made during the campaigns, that they would be paying them on time. You might be aware that Mpika is housing the regional headquarters, including the largest workshop in Southern Africa, which is TAZARA workshop. But literally, it's doing almost nothing. It's capable of producing almost anything, agri-equipment, which Saro is doing, TAZARA workshop in Mpika can do. They are able even to manufacture guns, they are able to manufacture wheelbarrows, they are able to do contracts, they are able to do literally anything, everything.
In December 2021, Republican President HAKAINDE HICHILEMA issued a directive that a lasting solution for all challenges affecting the smooth operation of Tanzania-Zambia Railway Authority TAZARA should be found. Yesterday, the 17th of June 2022, the head of state also re-echoed government's commitment to rebuild the economy with emphasis on the recapitalization of TAZARA.
TAZARA still remains important to us, and we are hopeful that we can find a mutually agreeable way of reorganizing TAZARA, giving it a new lease of life. It's an old asset, and probably get it to standard gauge, which is important. But we believe we'll be having these conversations around some of these issues.
Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Chilanga District Kasupe Ward Councillor Tungenengene Chinoya has challenged members of his ward to volunteer as part of the newly launched Kasupe Crime Prevention Association, which will see them conducting night patrols in the ward as one way of beefing up police security. Speaking during the official launch of the association in Chilanga District Saturday, Mr. Chinoya says while police conduct patrols, community members, especially the youth, should take the task of keeping their communities safe upon themselves. He says there has been a recent rise in the number of crimes in the area, which has prompted his office to look to other alternatives. The formation of neighborhood watch initiatives in Zambia has been highly encouraged by government due to a rise in the number of community gangs locally known as junkies.
Because if we are not reporting such cases, no matter how small, how big, the statistics won't warrant, for example, to have night patrols, because they will know that the levels of crime in Kasupe are low, and yet they are high. And where we report from mostly, it's Bobby Brooms. Even when we try to ask for night patrols, then it will be justified. Last but not the least, I would also love to inform you that we have been allocated a piece of land by Fen Group cooperatives near to Balangi, where we are going to build another police post. So what I'm just waiting for is the official letter from the cooperative to say we have allocated you this piece of land. And through CDF and through our MP, I know is going to support this cause.
Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company Acting Public Relations and Marketing Manager Nshamba Muzungu has bemoaned the increase in illegal water connections in some parts of Lusaka, among them Chilenje and Livala townships. In an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Muzungu has warned of subsequent fines, stating that this is robbing the water utility company of funds needed to improve the water system in other parts of Lusaka. He notes that improvement of the overall water system in Lusaka, as well as other parts of the country, is key to achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal number 6 of providing easy access to clean water and sanitation for all citizens.
Other than the physical leakages that you see, the company is also losing a lot of water through illegal connections, and that is quite serious in most of the areas in Lusaka. But then we want to appeal to members of the community to ensure that they desist from that, because that is criminal and they can be prosecuted for that. Right now, our team is going in various communities inspecting properties. And also if you are found to have connected your property illegally to the network and you are receiving water, you are not registered in the system, but you are receiving a service, that is a criminal offense and you can be prosecuted for that.
Inspector General of Police Lemi Kajoba says the police service has noticed with concern the continued unlawful acts of abuse of social media platforms by some members of the public. In a statement made available to the media, Mr. Kajoba says some criminally minded people have continued abusing social media platforms by indiscriminately posting insulting and abusive language, as well as defamatory remarks in which they are attacking innocent citizens who may not be in a position to defend themselves. The Inspector General has reminded the public that the use of electronic communication with the intent to coerce, intimidate, harass, or cause emotional distress to a person is a serious offense which is contrary to the laws of Zambia. He says the use of insulting language and defamation of the president constitute serious offenses prohibited in the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. Mr. Kajoba has since warned that the police will not relent in arresting or dealing sternly with any perpetrators of such offenses in accordance with the law. A Zambian non-governmental organization championing the use of science and technology, DSAT, says the debate on the national biosafety and biotechnology policy has exposed some knowledge gap on the issue surrounding genetically modified organisms, GMOs. DSAT Chief Executive Officer Veronica Mwaba notes that research has shown that GMOs are a reality in Africa. Ms. Mwaba discloses that about 10 countries have settled for the GMO technology, hence reiterating the need for Zambia to bring all key stakeholders under the platform to debate on matters of biotechnology.
The GMOs debate is interesting. It has been ongoing for so many years. Research has shown GMOs are a reality in Africa. 10 countries have settled for the technology. Zambia should bring key stakeholders under one platform to debate. The regulators should be on board. What is important is that interest groups should have a meaningful discourse on the subject matter. For example, the key actors should debate from an informed perspective that is backed up with evidence, verified and accurate information, so to speak. Overall, there is need to build capacity in the media to report on modern biotechnology. Media will assist to bridge the information gap associated with GMOs. Heightened sensitization on GMOs will allow policy and society to make informed choices to select what could work better for communities. Evidence-based science that is beneficial to society is the way to go.
We'll take a second and final break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the ministry.
It has so much data.
Mom?
Yes, baby?
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow!
Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
On Monday, 20th June 2022, on National Matters, join Pastor Moses Chiluba as he hosts Honorable Elvis Nkandu, Minister of Youth, Sport and Arts. Don't miss as they discuss UPND 10 months of being in power.
As government through the ministry, we have demanded for a report from the service provider, and we need a refund and underline, because as we are not restive, and the payment for expenses suffered.
Invite others to participate through phoning, on Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, and text messages.
On DSTV channel 274, GoTV channel 98, and Topstar channel 106.
Make a date with us. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Welcome back. And now in international news, a 6-story building collapsed early on Friday, June 17, in the Egyptian capital of Cairo, killing 6 people. The city's deputy governor, Ibrahim Abdel Haidi, said a family of 6 was inside when the incident occurred, but couldn't yet explain why it happened. Rescuers were still searching through the rubble on Friday afternoon, and people were asked to leave the area because of structural concerns. In other international stories, Zimbabwean nurses plan to go on strike on Monday, June 19, to denounce their poor wages and working conditions. The announcement was made through a letter addressed by several unions to the biggest hospital in the country, the Perere Nyatwa Group of Hospitals in Harare. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
A 6-story building collapsed early on Friday in the Egyptian capital of Cairo, killing 6 people. The city's deputy governor said a family of 6 was inside when the incident occurred, but couldn't yet explain why it had happened. Rescuers were still searching through the rubble on Friday afternoon, and people were asked to leave the area because of structural concerns. Illegal construction is common in the North African country, and the government has tried to crack down the practice with law enforcement. According to the Arab Reporters for Investigative Journalism, building collapses across Egypt killed 500 people in the past 7 years. Zimbabwean nurses plan to go on strike on Monday to denounce their poor wages and working conditions. The announcement was made through a letter addressed by several unions to the biggest hospital in the country. This is their 2nd strike since the COVID-19 pandemic began. The previous movement in 2020 forced hospitals to turn away patients during the health crisis. Nurses in Zimbabwe are paid about $80 per month, according to the unions, and are struggling to cope with the crippling inflation.
The rural community of Paine is home to a brutal statistic. The largest number of victims per capita of Chile's former military dictatorship. 65-year-old Sonia Valenzuela still lives in what's called Widow's Lane. She was 16 when soldiers raided the street and took her father, her 4 uncles, and her husband of only 6 months.
From the window, I saw that they were taking away a line of people with their hands up like this. My uncle cried a lot. He said, "Sonia, they're going to kill me," and so it was.
The majority of those who lived here in 1973 were poor, illiterate farmers who'd benefited from a land reform program, until a military coup turned the clock back. In all, 70 men were taken from here and disappeared, leaving their families penniless.
We were destitute. My grandmother was left to care for 16 grandchildren. They asked for milk, for bread.
But the worst part, she says, was the search for their bodies and for justice. Justice was finally served this week to 38 of the 70 victims who are honored at this memorial. After numerous appeals, the Supreme Court has ruled to imprison 11 soldiers and policemen with sentences of up to 20 years. Flor Lasso lost 2 brothers, 2 uncles, and her father. She says she's waited nearly 50 years to be able to sleep in peace.
I think of my beloved mother who died in December. I can say that I completed my mission for her. She fought for so many years for this.
Yet only 33% of the victims' remains have been found. 24 of them were executed and thrown into a ravine.
They only found my father's glasses and a bit of clothing. The rest of his remains have been thrown into the sea or into Lake Rappel in what the dictatorship called Operation Removal.
17 other victims were executed closer to home. This is the hill where the soldiers brought them, shot them dead, and then left their bodies to decompose. The squadron was led by a Lieutenant Colonel Magana, but he will never spend a single day in prison. He died a year ago, peacefully in his bed, before he could be sentenced. Many of the victims' families have also died. That's why Sonia Valenzuela still feels sadness. Justice that takes so long, she says, still feels like injustice.
Let's now have some sports news. And in sports news, the Zambia women's national team's readiness for the 2022 Africa Women's Cup of Nations AWCON will be put to a test when the first tournament hosts Morocco in an international friendly this evening. The match will kick off at 21 hours Central African time at the Moulay Abdallah Sports Complex. The match against Morocco is one of 3 warm-up games on the diary for the Copper Queens side. Zambia are in Group B alongside Cameroon, Tunisia and Togo. The competition for first choice goalkeeper is still subject to debate as either Hazel Nali, Catherine Musonda or Copper Queens newbie Letitia Lungu will start in goal. FAR's women's national representative Colonel Priscilla Katoba is leading the delegation in Rabat. To end Camnet television main news, the headlines once again. CHISHIMBA KAMBWILI challenges public office seekers to make truth-telling a norm. Freedom fighters appeal for recognition from UPND administration. ENOCH KAVINDELE alleges that former President FREDRICK CHILUBA foresaw the presidency of HAKAINDE HICHILEMA. In international news, building collapse in CAIRO kills family of 6. And in sports news, Copper Queens set to face AWCON tournament hosts Morocco in an international friendly Saturday evening. We now look at the Camnet verse for the day, which is coming from Psalms 118 verse 24. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you for watching the news once again. My name is Jeffrey Siambo. Bye-bye.